Hello, my name is Crystal Ross. Today I'll be examining the qualitative study entitled Writing in Calculus and Reflective Abstraction by Dr. Laurel Cooley. I chose this paper because it examines the use of writing in the mathematics classroom, a subject I've been interested in for many years. In fact, I've used writing in previous math classes I've taught and also in tutoring math students. As I'm developing the class I'll be teaching this fall, I'd like to figure out how to use writing more effectively, so this paper was perfect for me. The idea behind writing in the math classroom is that it promotes a process of reflective abstraction, which helps the students to form a deeper level of understanding than, say, memorizing algorithms alone. Cooley defines reflective abstraction as a mechanism for the isolation of particular attributes of a mathematical structure that allows the subject to construct or reconstruct knowledge that is new. To expand on this, reflective abstraction spurs the development of intellectual thought. What happens is a student observes the results of mathematical processes, then reflects on these observations made to build a schema for interpretation. Then, future math processes are carried out using the schema. As the schema is employed time and time again, it takes a new form, since successive math experience teaches something new. In doing this, the student constructs new knowledge. That is, they create new knowledge for themselves, which they take pride in. This makes it easier for them in their future studies. The specific research question addressed is, can students experience reflective abstraction in writing about mathematics? This question is nicely stated in previously observed phenomena. In her introduction, Cooley includes a rich history of this subject and cites the works of many math education researchers. Now, the goal of the writing activities is to foster communication between the instructor and the student with the objective of encouraging a reflective process. There are other benefits to this communication. First of all, it helps the instructor to figure out where gaps in knowledge might be, which aids them in developing effective lessons. And also, it helps the students figure out where they might be weak, which can help them be more productive in their studies and learn the material more deeply. What Cooley did is she took a look at one math class, which included 25 first-time Calc 1 students at a four-year college in a large city. The students were assigned 7 writings, 3 of which were to be completed in class, 4 outside of the class. For each assignment, the students were given instructor feedback, which included counterexamples to demonstrate incomplete reasoning, corrections to calculation errors, and also pointed questions, which encouraged the students to more fully develop their thoughts. At the end of the semester, the writings were examined and compared to determine if abstraction had indeed taken place. Qualitative methods are appropriate for this study, as it would be next to impossible to assign a numerical value to reflective abstraction. It should be noted that the author is both the instructor and the sole researcher for this study, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. Also, no control group was used. The only students studied were the 25 in that one class. In her analysis, Cooley determined that the students had demonstrated that they were capable of reflective abstraction. They did this by generalizing subjects in their writing, referencing previous mathematical experiences, and making analogies between different problems that they'd solved and different math concepts. Also, they expanded on previous thoughts and previous writings in responding to teacher comments. Cooley concluded that as the semester progressed, the students demonstrated a greater ability for abstraction. This could have happened for a variety of reasons. First of all, it could be that the students simply became more proficient writers as they practiced writing throughout the semester. Or it could be that the instructor feedback helped them to learn how to make abstractions. Or it could be that the writing process itself taught reflective abstraction. Cooley assigned a point value to these writing assignments, and as such, the students took the writing assignments seriously, addressing instructor comments with great detail. Cooley suggests that this attention to detail can help promote and develop reflective abstraction. Now, about the reliability of this paper. Cooley is well researched. As I stated before, she demonstrates this quite well in her introduction with the rich, thorough, detailed history she presents and her discussion of the work of many other math education researchers. But again, Cooley was the sole researcher an instructor used, and this does not bolster reliability. It would have been desirable for her to include collaborators. Also, little emphasis was placed on the possibility for any conclusions other than those which Cooley herself had drawn. As such, she did not adequately address her critics or skeptics. It's hard to gauge the consistency in Cooley's assessments, as she did not include a rubric in her paper. Also, not all of the student writings were made available, but this is understandable as there were 25 students and 7 different writing assignments for each student. But since the description of each writing assignment was included in the paper, it would be easy for another math educator or another researcher to apply the methods put forth in the paper and determine if they reach a similar conclusion. The study is cohesive. It moves the field forward. It's very detailed, presents many great ideas, and shows why the writing could be beneficial. Now, the quality of the study is bolstered by the richness of the detail of the method included in the paper. It's clear that great care was taken by both the instructor and the students to reap as much benefit from the writing as possible. In regards to the rigor of the study, the terms were well defined. The reader knows exactly what Cooley's goals are and exactly what her beliefs are. Some examples of student work were included in the article. However, most of the student work was of high quality, showing reflective abstraction. Not a lot of examples of poor writing were shown, and I wonder if she was being selective in this. Now, it could be that most of the students were capable of reflective abstraction, so she didn't have as much to pull from, but she probably should have addressed that. But the specifics of the method are clear and do address the research question. My personal impressions of this paper are that it is definitely worth reading. I think anybody could read it and enjoy it and get something out of it, but I do value writing in the math classroom, so I am a little bit biased. Again, the paper is detailed, full of background and history. It shows samples of student work and examples of writing assignments that a teacher could use. But I have to say again, I was disappointed with the fact that she didn't collaborate with other researchers. Also, the fact that she didn't use a control group is questionable. Though, in her defense, to use a control group might not have made a lot of sense. For example, had she used a class that did not have the writing assignments, well, then those students would not have had practice writing. So then at the end of the semester, as she tried to assess reflective abstraction, the data she would have been provided with might not have adequately described what was taking place. I learned a lot from this paper. First of all, I learned that the writing can be valuable. I want to know what my students are thinking. Reading their writing is going to help me. But also I learned that reading student writing can be tedious. Just in reading the examples of student writing presented, I found that sometimes it's hard to understand what the student is trying to tell me, especially if they're not careful in using their math terminology. Also, it takes a lot of time and a lot of work on behalf of the instructor. For every assignment, she responded and returned the writing to the student as soon as possible so that the student would not continue to make mistakes in their thought process. Here are my resources that I used in this presentation, and I thank you for watching.